Cole, we're back on the Inqua podcast.
We're so back.
We got lots to talk about, but you know where I want to start today.
Is it with me being wrong?
Yeah, not even to rub it in. More surprise, but a little to rub it in.
That is A-okay. I am pro movies succeeding, despite me doubting it on last week's pod. So last week, we'll set the stage. I got to talk about Halloween movies for 36 solid minutes. Of the 36-minute podcast, I think Tristan's cumulative talking time was 1.5. And so I got 34.5 minutes of just horror movies in the month of October. But it's now November, and we are now getting some of the, fallback and the you know, what happened with that last weekend of horror releases, including a little Blumhouse boy, Five Nights at Freddy's, that not just won the weekend, that not just did okay, that dominated all box office.
I mean, I didn't want to, we talked about it. Megan did something, but it was different, and it was TikTok, and we talked about the projections being at 40, and I was like, ooh, 40 could be cool. No one predicted 80,000... I'm sorry, 80 million domestic.
Might have believed 80,000.
80 million domestic. And
it did 35 in its first day. It crushed its 40 weekend projection on Friday, reporting.
Okay, so you watched it. I started it last night. I have not finished.
That's okay.
What about it connected with people?
No, nothing. I stand by that nothing about this movie connected with people. What it did have, though, is IP that young people recognize that has not already been burned into the ground by movies in general. So Megan gets this TikTok thing. Five Nights at Freddy's was as cool to go see as for young people, and it has the YouTube watching people play Let's Plays of it, and it having that hype. It's now been so long because generations and pop culture moves so fast on the internet that people have nostalgia for the good old days of 2015, 2016 of playing Five Nights at Freddy's, in your high school, in your basement where the high school or the middle school buddies get together and play. And that crowd, that under 35, just overwhelmingly under 35 crowd showed up for FNAF, the movie. And we're in that under 35 crowd too, Tristan.
Yeah.
But we have a podcast where we talk about movies and we try to approach it semi-seriously and have seen more than 5 movies that have been made before the year of 1970. So
we're in a different crowd.
But the thing is, that is not our under 35 crowd nowadays. The under 35s, the zillennial and down have just a different relationship with movies than generations of past used to.
Yeah.
And FNAF has kind of become just this event where people don't care that it is a really bad movie. You're halfway through. Out of 10 stars, what are you giving it?
I mean, I in general have to just knock it down a few because I'm the horror genre, the storytelling, okay. It's not great.
It's the horror genre. Have you been scared yet?
No. It's
right.
More just teasing the whole time. I'm kind of wondering when it's going to get into the jumps.
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's bad. It's such a bad movie, but it's this intellectual property that doesn't already have 35 other movies that you have to watch before it, like this Marvel Cinematic Universe, where, Barbie blew the doors off of it and was a good movie. But, how has it taken us this long in cinema to make a Barbie movie, the definitive Barbie movie? So people have, an emotional attachment to it, and they want to go make it an event, and it becomes a thing. That's FNAF. FNAF has just, got these young people showing up, and even though the movie doesn't do anything that made the books or the video games or any of the, mini games good,
yeah,
it's a property that people recognize, and they can say, oh, that's, the game theory guy from YouTube that's, making a cameo in this movie. He said it's just a theory. Oh my gosh, did you hear him say?
Wow.
That's just a theory. So it's not... It's good for the movie industry because the movie made money. It's not good for the movie industry that you can just churn out anything and get this kind of a reaction.
Do you feel like it's a little bit rebellious and counterculture now to go to a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's? Is it like a kickback of, you call them Zillennials, is it a kickback of Zillennials to be like, I'm so sick of Marvel, I'm going to go to this random movie?
Gotta be. It's gotta be something. I didn't go out and interview every 27-year-old that was in the theater for it, but they weren't there because they heard good reviews of it. I'll tell you that. Because we fashion ourselves critics as well, even though we're in that younger crowd. But like, even our critic, even as a ardent fan of this franchise, my critic rating of FNAF, the movie, is not good.
I mean, the first reviews I saw on Saturday were that critic scores were 25% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audience scores were above 80, like 89%. So I called my sister. I know she was going. All of her coworkers, they were all going to go see it. And I asked her what she thought of it. She didn't love it. She's like, it's a bad movie. And she had played the game, and she was like, I was waiting for more of the game. I didn't get it. But it was fun, and it was Josh Hutcherson, and it was a movie to go see. So she was there, and it was a packed theater. So to your point, bad for creators because they can just churn out whatever they want to, but also good for creators because if they're cutting their teeth on Five Nights at Freddy's, maybe they make something better that's not a quintuple sequel next.
Yeah, this does open up the door, right? This year has kind of been the pushback of Marvel, where we've seen a couple original, even though they're not like original stories, they're not saturated movie stories. Yeah. And so, it used to be you had to make like a couple indie movies and then Marvel would call you up and then maybe you could get enough cachet to go make the movie that you actually want to make or whatever. Now this is a different avenue. You don't have to go through the comic book system to get to where you want to be in the industry. Hopefully.
Hopefully. I mean, speaking of the comic book system in the industry, this week has had all kinds of news of like the director of the Marvels, Nia DaCosta, leaving during post-production to work on her next film.
So that she can pay her student loans?
So that she can pay her student loans. Is there anything more millennial? I mean, because she directed Candyman. Did you like Candyman?
The 80s Candyman is one of actually my top 10 horror movies of all time.
Wow.
The new Candyman, they tried very hard to get like some Jordan Peele energy into it, and they threw like from the producers of some of this Jordan Peele stuff, and it did not land for me.
Yeah, I know Peele was one of the screenwriters and producers, but it was like, why isn't he directing it if he really believes in it?
Yeah.
But to your point, she cut her teeth on a couple smaller films, wins a prize at the Tribeca Film Festival in 2018 for her movie Little Woods, and then now she's leaving most of the way through Marvels, and early screenings and chatter from industry folks are, it's not good. The Marvels is like already in a rough spot, which kind of is in line with the rest of this year of movies and their TV shows. Did you watch Loki season 2?
Not yet. And
See?
Loki season 1 is my second favorite of the Disney Plus shows, right? It goes WandaVision, then Loki, then probably Moon Knight. Like, I am excited to see more of this Loki, and I haven't found the time yet. And it's because there's too much, and you don't feel that urgency. And now because I've missed a couple of the other ones, I'm like, well, I'm not going to really be caught up by the time Marvel's comes out, so I'm just going to go see it in theaters, whatever.
Yeah.
And if I can't fill in all the gaps, then I guess I'm giving myself over to that now. And
you're hopping over to YouTube where you got to go these days of
get the recap.
Get the recap. Give me the short version. Give me the 20-minute video essay that connects the dots.
And the wild, like that used to be us. If people that are actually doing things like this and have a niche of explaining, we're two white dudes with a podcast. Like, what else are we if not, the ability to explain Marvel things to other people? And not even all of the podcasts are watching all of the Marvel things that are coming out nowadays.
Nope.
It's a bad place.
I mean, I don't even know what's the next thing coming out.
So the Marvels, and then we got a trailer for Echo.
Okay.
Today, as a matter of fact.
And Echo was from...
Do you know who Echo is? Tell me.
I want to say it, and Echo was a character in the Hawkeye series from 2 Christmases ago, right?
Correct. It has been 2 Christmases, and
character.
That's the thing. For as billions of Marvel projects it seems like there have been, it's been 2 years since we saw Echo last, and we've done nothing with her because we're so there are so many across so many different projects that they're still not each getting their time in the sun. But you are correct. Echo is a character. She showed up for the first time in the Hawkeye thing. Wilson Fisk, like the Vincent D'Onofrio, the Wilson Fisk from Daredevil, is in this because in the comics he is her adoptive father. Okay. And so this is Kingpin's daughter, is Echo. And she's got like Taskmaster kind of abilities where she can just, which also, I mean, did you actually watch Black Widow? Do you remember who Taskmaster even is?
Yep.
He can like see you and copy your, hand-to-hand combat stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, this could have ties to Thunderbolts because that's where Taskmaster actually will be with a lot of the just ground level punch 'em and kick 'em kind of heroes. That status has kind of been up in the air recently. Marvel is spread out.
Marvel is spread out, and on top of that, Disney is spread out. I mean, the Star Wars shows have been all over the place. Ahsoka, I don't know if you watched it.
A couple episodes, right? Didn't finish it.
It was fine. There were some big moments, but also, the big moments were within one episode. And past that, it was weird, shoddy storytelling where it's just Dave Filoni laying more groundwork for the show he's always wanted to make, or the combination of Mando, Boba, Ahsoka, all of them. Who knows? But the big news is Disney's now trying to buy out the remaining Hulu stake from Comcast. We're talking $8.61 billion. They're not going to have money to keep making all these shows and to produce or to get the CGI better on the movies. It's just going to be a weird game of like, how much longer are we going to put up with subpar Marvel? I guess a long time. Because if they're making some money, they're happy. But not a great move.
Marvel the reason we used to spend so much money on these things is because we started min-maxing, right? In baseball, you only try to hit home runs or strike out, and nothing else matters because as long as you hit home runs, you are going to win more games than you don't at the end of the season. We realized that, singles and doubles aren't really worth it. And so the whole freaking calendar of movies has just been either giant blockbuster, like giant budget projects, or nothing. We're not trying to hit singles and doubles with the rom-coms and the other adult dramas, the things that filled up the calendar and that were good.
Yeah.
Anyway, Marvel is starting to not get that kind of return, though. And that's where they've got to panic because they're not getting home runs on these big swings. Now you're striking out more.
Yeah.
And now you're losing a couple games in the middle here.
Because we've talked about fatigue for years, but it wasn't real fatigue. When Captain Marvel, which I didn't think was a great story itself, still made, $1 billion or right under $1 billion?
Yep, it got over $1 billion.
It did great. Whereas now, everything else is made well under in the last year.
Just last year, Black Panther 2 still got to like 800, 900 million. That's still big. This year, their biggest domesticer, the biggest domestic gross is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, 358 million. And then Ant-Man 3 is 214 domestic.
And Thor was terrible, but still made some money.
And so if your budget... now you got to reconsider your budget, and so CGI that's already bad might be getting worse.
Well, that's why the news came out with Mahershala Ali and the Blade movie. We've talked about this for forever, and it was the Eternals maybe that hinted at it a little bit. There was a couple other shows, and they've cut the budget for that movie down to $100 million and had to bring in more screenwriters because Mahershala Ali was so mad at the original treatment for the script. So you're just looking at like, yeah, are Marvel movies going to go small budget and feel like a more indie or, a smaller story? It's funny to think about that, but you might be seeing it soon, to your point.
We've now seen 2 Taika Thor movies that both cared more about being funny than big visual spectacles. And now people are sick of Taika because the last one was so bad. But can we bring Taika back for some other movie and only give him 70 million and tell him to just make a good movie because we know that he can't? The reason he got called up to Marvel is because he's a great filmmaker and has made good movies in the past in his filmography and can craft characters that are funny and write good, but then he gets buried under this Marvel thing.
and gets a little lost.
Yeah.
Well, and as far as streaming goes and movies, we're seeing a lot more people given shots earlier on, I feel like. Getting bigger budgets, getting bigger stars, and I don't think they always pan out, including a movie that comes out this weekend,
Yes.
Fingernails.
What a
And
segue.
What
a
a
professional.
Been working on that one. I saw the cast and was like, I've got to watch this movie. And everyone I've talked to who's a little more cinephile or whatever else saw the trailer and they're like, got to see it. Jessie Buckley, top of her game for years now. Riz Ahmed, watch him in anything. Luke Wilson, lovable. But then you get to the director. Christos Nikau, I want to say. Nikou? Sure. He's Greek. He's made random weird European movies, and Americans still in general just do not hop on board with European filmmaking style and story style and how they set things up. So I got to screen Fingernails a couple days ago, and it was good, but it wasn't great. And it wasn't enough to where I'm like, I'd recommend this movie broadly. No, it's got a little bit of a Severance feel, mixed with like a Charlie Kaufman, I'm thinking of ending things, and it doesn't really work. It's enough to like get you watching and stay because you want to see how it ends. Mm-hmm. But again, the storytelling style is so odd. You're like, this should have been a $20 million indie movie, and you can tell with the stars it's got to have been more. And you know Apple TV is just shelling out the cash to get these people on this movie. The basic plot is fingernails are the first signifier for any heart disease or heart problems. So this company lets you rip off your fingernails and put them in a little tester to see if you're a real compatible match for love because it connects to the heart. And so there's this little clinic, and it's bringing people in that think they're a good match. They've dated for years. They haven't been married. They rip off a fingernail each, put them in a little microwave-looking thing, and it tells you 50%, 100%, 20% compatible. Give them the news, and it's a more deterministic way of finding love. But again, the problem is there's so many quiet moments. It just kind of meanders, and you're like, well, what am I watching here? So it's good for thinkers, and it's good for people who want a slower, quieter movie. But for the money they spent, it can't have been worth it. It's their Oscar bait movie, and I don't think critics are going to attach to it like they're hoping they are.
Okay, so you're talking about a Greek that makes weird movies, especially one that's about a weird way of falling in love. You realize that Yorgos Lanthimos has another movie coming out this year. You can't just, like, steal his whole flow in the same year that he's coming out with Poor Things, right?
It's just great value Yorgos. I've watched The Lobster, and, you know, I understand where that was, but it was so absurd, it really took you to a different place of like, oh, yeah, that was great. I love The Favorite.
Yeah, you were a favorite guy.
I was a favorite guy.
I remember this vividly.
It was shock cinema, and it was something different. But now when you get the derivatives years later with a stacked cast, and it doesn't deliver, it just feels like that. You feel like you've been cheated a little bit. You know, you're at the Broiler Express, not the Burger King. You're at you're at the Olive Garden, not the real Italian. Like, it's good.
What is it, McDougal's instead of McDonald's?
It's McDougal's. You know, it's Dr. Thunder. It's the off-brand where you're like, it tastes close, but it's enough off that you know you're not having the real thing.
Interesting. And that's Apple TV. So let's talk a little bit about what Apple TV is doing with their thing, because if anyone's got money behind them, look, I heard weird, unfounded, just like people on a podcast talking rumors about Sony actually, like, I don't know, merging with because Sony has the deal with Netflix.
Yeah.
And so all of their stuff goes to Netflix first, Into the Spider-Verse, or Across the like the second one, the second Spider-Verse is on Netflix now because Netflix gets the right of first refusal on all Sony stuff. But Sony's not like getting out of the movie game just because they don't have a streamer like everyone else. They still understand that they can sell this stuff for big money, and Sony's got deep pockets. But you know who has deeper pockets than even Sony? Is freaking Apple, and they can't figure it out.
Yeah, they can't figure it out. I'll take a stance. I'm going to take a hard stance. Apple's doing an interesting thing because you get a new phone, you get an iPad, you get a tablet, you get a computer, whatever. They immediately
I have gotten
give you
all of those things. You're correct.
They immediately give you 3 months of Apple TV Plus.
True.
So it's not as bad as Prime Video where they're like, you already pay us to buy all your stuff. Here's our service. It's like, hey, you're buying into an experience. Here's Apple TV Plus as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Prime because that is what you have to compare this to. Because you look at Amazon Prime getting into the football game, right? Just last night, I watched Thursday Night Football. It was my Steelers, your Titans.
Yep.
Sorry about that. Neither teams are particularly good. Will Levis.
Rookie QB. Yeah.
You know, you got something to look forward to. Anyway, we watched this on an app that's designed to sell us crap. And later in the month of November, they're going to have a Black Friday football game that was like what they built this whole agreement with the NFL around, that they would be able to have Black Friday football. And I guarantee you, while we're watching Black Friday football, it's the Dolphins and the Jets, and Zach Wilson's going to throw an interception, and it's going to go to commercial, and the commercial is going to be like clickable, where, hey, do you like this, exercise equipment or the thing that you want to get your family for Christmas? Just click to buy. You're already in our app, right? Football and streaming and commercials, that is not how Amazon is going to make back this giant money. They're going to get back their money for buying into the NFL by getting you to just buy crap on Amazon that you're already, because that's their big profit margin. That's where they get people.
Well, and it shocked me last night. I was watching at someone's house on on a smart TV. There were QR codes on every single ad to go directly to purchase. And I was like, oh, that's sneaky.
It's Amazon.
So Amazon's doing their thing. And the thing is
so why can't Apple TV figure it? So Amazon has it figured out. They know where they actually make their money, and they know that, as long as they're just good enough in the streaming game, they'll stay there, right? Meanwhile, Apple TV still has this like outdated model in your head that they're trying to compete creatively and prestige-wise with the HBOs and the Netflixes and everything else. And they're just so far behind when they already have the deep pockets of a tech giant. They need to be, I don't know, they need, you watch freaking The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and you got a bunch of Sony product placement all over every single camcorder, every single phone, every single piece of technology has Sony real big across it. That's how Apple needs to do things. They need to, anyway, not telling Apple how to run their business, but this is not it for streaming so far.
I went looking because I've been watching more shows. There's been more that's gotten traction. They've had some things that are either, Oscar baity or Golden Globes or whatever else. So here's the other thing with Apple that kills me. They don't give exact revenue numbers on Apple TV Plus because Apple TV Plus is part of the entire umbrella of Apple services. So they see it as an arm of Apple services. Apple services last year, over $22 billion in revenue. So they blew away all their own expectations of what services was going to get. So it combines with music, it combines with all the rest of it, which Amazon kind of does too. Amazon Music, they do podcasts, whatever. They used to have Wondery, now it's part of Amazon, whatever. Anyway, I think the thing with Apple TV Plus is...
That was an underrated little thing that you threw. Wondery used to be the premier home of podcasts.
Yep.
And now it's Amazon. It's all
gobbled up, right? Only the strong with the deepest pocketbook survive. So here's my pitch to you about Apple TV Plus. They're getting better shows, movies, creators, and they're proving themselves for those who want to make stuff a little outside the box. So Severance, I mean, that's a great show that's been talked about. Everyone wants a second season. That's a Ben Stiller show, and he's showing off his dramatic prowess, right? So you've got Severance, but then you've got The Morning Show, which has been a hit for years.
That was one of their original 4. I remember when Apple TV launched, they had 4 original TV shows. Morning Show was one of them.
Morning Show's great. Ted Lasso, shaky last season, but it's still doing great. There's a billion spin-offs they could do with every character. Then you have Shrinking from the creators of Ted Lasso. Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, lovable. It's not great, but it's lovable. Everyone I know that watched Ted Lasso has watched Shrinking.
And that's really your Ted Lasso spinoff, like in all reality.
It's your lovable Jason Segel just doing Ted Lasso as a therapist. You have Silo, which is getting a lot of chatter right now. That's a cool sci-fi show. You have The Foundation, another really cool sci-fi show. You have For All Mankind, an alternate history of what if Russia got to the moon first, we're going to Mars now. You have all these shows that honestly could live on Prime or anywhere else, but they're getting a bunch of seasons on Apple TV Plus. And so you have sci-fi fans who are going over to Apple TV Plus and saying, "Oh, I want to watch this. Like, this is a good sci-fi show, gotta go watch it." You have The Last Thing He Told Me with Jennifer Garner. Great show. Got a lot of chatter. Someone recommended it to me. I binged the whole thing. I recommend it to everybody. You have all these shows that are seemingly nothing, but the more they've got chatter, the more people I know that are at least signing up to watch them. So I think in the long term, it's proving that it's not HBO yet, but they want to say, like, give us 3 to 5 years, we're going to be HBO.
And the door's open because HBO ain't HBO anymore now that they're been gobbled up by Discovery. And it's not TV, it's HBO, and now it's just the worst of TV, also on your HBO platform.
And you're still going to have people going to HBO to make new shows or series or whatever. But I say give it a couple years, and where Lord of the Rings was bought up by Amazon and they biffed it on that first season, I think you're going to have your next really big property go to Apple TV Plus. And it's going to give them the clout that they need. Bold. They've been getting close, but I think you're going to have your next huge series going over there, and they're going to have the money to buy it. They already have the rights to all Scorsese stuff, but you're going to have a show go over there that's going to really hit, and that's going to propel them past Paramount and Peacock and the rest of them. I'll leave my Apple TV rant with one last thing. And this is kind of on the same page. They may have gotten their big series starter or whatever. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Like, unhealthily, a huge Godzilla fan. Legendary signed a contract with Apple TV Plus and gave them their first series. Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. And it's kind of embargoed. I can talk about the first episode because I showed it at Comic-Con. It's a little embargoed right now, so I won't give a full review. But we're talking about a great kaiju live-action series. Big monsters. They show the big guy in the first episode. So when you see American Godzilla and you're like, wait a sec. It's not just going to be random monster of the week. We got Godzilla on screen. That was an immediate hit. I was like, it's mine.
Let's go.
So we got pre-screen access. I got the first 5 episodes. I'm 3 in. It's good. It's not great, but it is good. You got Anders from Workaholics. You've got Wyatt Russell, knockoff Captain America. You've got Kurt Russell. Is it Wyatt Russell?
Yeah.
It is Wyatt Russell. Oh, boy. Yeah, they are related. Anyways, the show opens...
Wait, so it actually does have Kurt and Wyatt Russell.
Yeah, Wyatt is young
Wonderful.
Kurt. And I was like, wait a second. So here's the best part. The opening scene of the first episode is John Goodman from Skull Island running out of the trees when the giant spiders have attacked them in Skull Island, and we don't know where he goes, but he shows up later. He's like, oh, we escaped. It shows him escape, and it's full on. First 30 seconds, you have a giant spider chasing him down to the water.
Perfect.
And a giant kaiju battle. So immediately, they waste no time. They're like, here you go. We got monsters. We're not skimping on CGI or anybody. Here we go. So it delivers, and if this is a hit, you've got all the monsters between all these Kong and Godzilla movies. You got exactly what you need. And those movies make money. So I think you might just pull people in.
And Apple TV understands, after working with Scorsese, that you have to release movies in theaters in order to make money on your stinking movies.
And I think, unlike the Marvel situation, you don't have to watch these in between. They're different characters. They're almost like the first Godzilla to Godzilla versus Kong, right? You don't have to know exactly what's happened with that or Skull Island. You're like, oh yeah, big monkey, he exists. They fight, cool. You're not going to have watched the shows. But for those who like it, they're going to sign up because they're going to want to watch it.
Yeah, there's a difference between cool Easter eggs and vital plot information that is not explained within the context of this exact 2.5-hour movie that I've sat down to watch.
Yep. So big hit. I mean, I think give it a little time. Who knows how it's going to end? You're never sure about the screenwriting and where they decide to take it. But so far, it's good.
It's heartening for Apple TV Plus, and also, you know, as I kind of mentioned, Scorsese, Killer of the Flower Moon, like they've got another one, right? Remember, this is the same studio that won a Best Picture very recently.
Yep.
So, you know, as much as it's a little befuddling as to why they're not throwing their weight around a little bit more since they've got the deep pockets, they're getting there.
They know what they're doing enough. It's definitely not run like a great studio, but yeah, I think they're growing into their own, and we're seeing that with this buy.
Speaking of great studios, Tristan, talk to me about Hulu, who just got bought, right? We mentioned got bought the rest of the way by Disney, even though they were already half Disney anyway. There's a new Hulu movie coming out.
There is a new Hulu movie. There's not much coming out this weekend. We got The Marsh King's Daughter, which just sounds like a weird title with Daisy Ridley, but it's also got Ben Mendelsohn. First reviews are in. It's fine. It's not great. So on Hulu for our movie of the week, we've got Quiz Lady, which is Awkwafina, Sandra Oh, Jason Schwartzman, and Tony Hale, as well as the quiz show host that I'll leave a secret in case you want to just go watch. Ooh. I don't know if they spoil it in the trailer. Not an amazing movie, but it's the kind of like 2000s, early 2010s comedy that would have gone to theaters and made a little money. And it was nice to watch on Hulu. You know, Awkwafina being Awkwafina. It's fun. It's not amazing, but it was a fun little watch.
It's a nice little review.
Short and sweet, like the movie. Here's the best part. It's under an hour 45.
Let's go.
You just can't beat a little comedy under an hour and 45. And Awkwafina and Sandra Oh are kind of playing who each other should have played, which is kind of fun to watch. Jarring at first to see Sandra Oh showing up in like a crop top with tattoos and pink hair, and you're like, what am I watching? But it's fun in the end, and it's got a little heart. It's got a little drug trippy scene, but it's fun.
Well, the gorilla on our back, the elephant in the room that we've been like mentioning, anything else, the reason there's not a lot in theaters this week is because there's a Marvel movie coming out next week. Not just a Marvel movie, but the Marvels.
Yep.
Featuring the continuation of the story from Secret Wars, which we know it was Secret Invasion that everyone watched. Yeah. You know, no one missed that one on Disney Plus.
Nope.
You mentioned Ben Mendelsohn in one of these movies going on. He's not in this, the second Marvels, because I've been told he was just like killed in one of these other projects that I haven't caught up on since the last time. You know, these are not sequels to themselves. It's just part 50 now in the Marvel story. And I'm going to go see it anyway. But man, we set the stage today talking about what Marvel is like, and then all this to lead up to a new Marvel movie next week.
Yeah, so I guess it's get to the theaters one last time and see something you haven't seen yet. And then next week, the Marvel faithful will show up and we'll hear the groans and the popcorn being kicked around on their way out of the theaters.
Anything else for like this month, or I mean, it's November now. Anything for the rest of the year that you're looking forward to, Tristan? Like what's circled on your calendar right now?
I mean, it's definitely an interesting one. I think there's a lot of movies that are coming out that just feel a little like cash grabs. The Hunger Games reboot felt unnecessary, and Rachel Zegler bait, I don't know. It just is a little weird to me. I'm really excited about Next Goal Wins, which comes out the 17th, so 2 weeks from now.
We talked about Taika and we talked about Ted Lasso. We got to talk about Next Goal Wins.
It's your boy, Taika being Taika, and Michael Fassbender in a non-serial killer role. The Killer also hits Netflix. I want to say it's this week. Or maybe it's next week.
It's already
anyway,
in the
it is next week.
Obligatory theaters that Netflix has to throw it into, but it's actually a Netflix release coming very soon, yes.
Yes, it's waiting its time so it can be available for all the award shows. But yeah, it hits Netflix on the 10th. I'll watch it then with gritted teeth and hope I don't hate myself afterwards. Dark Fincher being Dark Fincher. past that, I am a little excited about Maestro. I've heard terrible things about it.
Oh.
But I'm going to want to see it. Yeah, Maestro.
Yeah,
But Napoleon.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Napoleon with Joaquin Phoenix has got to be my most exciting movie.
That's the same weekend.
It is the same weekend.
Also, Wish from Disney.
Okay, so Thanksgiving weekend's still going to be a hit.
Interesting. So much more to look forward to. I'm excited, Tristan. I'm glad we're back podding.
Me too, and I think next week or the week after, we'll give our favorite November movies of all time. You know, we got to talk about My Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, maybe a little Toy Story in there, so look forward to that in the coming weeks.
November used to be James Bond season, always, so that'll come up.
Not for a few more years. That's it for this week, and we'll see you next week on the Inqua Pod.